Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Boring DAO Podcast. For today's episode, we have been talking to Drew from Saga. Now, if you're into Cosmos, if you like what we're doing here in the Cosmos ecosystem, you will very likely agree that the best case scenario for most projects is to have their own sovereign blockchain. However, setting up such a blockchain is quite expensive and tedious, and therefore it's hard for smaller projects. And that's the exact problem that Saga tries to solve. With their project, it should become relatively easy for projects to have their own chainlet supported by Saga. So in this interview, Drew has been explaining us what a chainlet is, how it exactly works, and gave us a lot of information about this very cool project. It was very informative. We really enjoyed this episode. I hope you do so too. Now enjoy the show. Hello, listeners. Welcome back to another episode of the Boring DAO Podcast. Today, we are sitting here with Saga. Drew will present us the project. And without further ado, I just want to give you the word, Drew. Introduce yourself, introduce Saga. What are you doing? What are your objectives? And introduce us a little bit to the project.
Yeah, for sure. So my Cosmos name that everyone knows me by is Joe Dirte. I'm just a Cosmos OG-ish, came probably around like 2019-ish, and saw a tweet about CZ reaching out to the Cosmos crew and for a listing and got ghosted, and they listed Adam anyway. So I'm like, all right, well, this looks interesting. Then I fell down the Cosmos rabbit hole, as many of us did. It was way before IBC, so it was a little harder to imagine back then. But just fell in love with the vision, and then ended up getting in a DAO with Jack Zamplin, Zucky Manian, Wolf Contract, NJ, anyway, Cosmos Johnny, and we did a marketing DAO for Cosmos, and that's how I really like broke into the Cosmos. Had like we asked for like $1 million, and it ended up being like 2.5 million by the time we spent it. So it ended up just being this crazy big task, and it was awesome. It changed my life, but man, it was wild. And yeah, that's how I got into the Cosmos. And besides that, I went to mechanical engineering school, worked as a mechanical engineer before pretty much diving headfirst into crypto. Ended up getting a job with Tendermint after the DAO I was in, and then started Saga while working at Tendermint, and now I'm at Saga, and I'll explain more of that later.
Yeah, that sounds good. Impressive, I guess, originating story. Why don't we kind of like deep dive into Saga? So I guess for the listeners, can you explain a little bit about, like what it is, what makes it different, especially around the architecture, and maybe get into the specifics of like, what is a chainlet?
Yeah, that sounds good. So I guess to start off, it'd probably be a good understanding, to have an understanding of what shared security is. And so like shared security in the Ethereum sense is all the contracts on Ethereum share a security state. And you can expect to have roughly the same security if you're just trading a silly NFT or doing like a crazy big Uniswap trade. But later entrants to the block space game, such as Polkadot and Cosmos, had a different vision of what shared security can be, and that is a single blockchain passing its security down, or blockchains below it inheriting the security of the blockchain above it, and giving some sort of incentives, taxes, fees, whatever, to pay for that security. So Saga is a form of shared security, but we're not going the same way the Cosmos Hub is going. We're actually not competing with the Cosmos Hub in my mind. We are giving people the ability to easily spin up their own EVM chain. First EVM, but later we're going to do COSM, WASM, and other virtual machines. And the idea is to lower the barrier of entry to Cosmos as low as possible, and have a permissionless way to just pay for block space, pay for secure block space. Where Cosmos Hub's vision is a little different, where you have to submit a governance proposal, get it approved, have the Cosmos Hub validators run your chain. It'll make for an extremely secure chain. It's just a little bit more of a heavy lift to get through governance and to shill yourself well enough to the Cosmos Hub to the point where they want to run your chain. Not to mention that bunch of the Cosmos Hub validators, namely like Binance, Kraken, Coinbase, these guys suck.
Got it. The chainlet sort of architecture seems really innovative, and I don't think anybody else is building this kind of infrastructure. It almost seems like it's a microcosm of the Cosmos ecosystem itself, within Saga, where a chainlet, you can basically deploy a smart contract, right, as a blockchain that inherits the security of the Saga mainnet. Yeah, I had a question on interoperability. If, let's say, let's use Trader Joe, for example, Trader Joe wants to deploy a couple of chainlets for different AMM pools, right? Can they talk to each other? Can other chainlets interact with, other chainlets from other projects? I guess talk to me about interoperability between chainlets.
Yeah, no, I think that's the heart of what the Cosmos ecosystem is all about. Like IBC is the killer application. So we're definitely bringing IBC out of the box, and we want interoperability between these chainlets. And I think you can actually have some smoother or advanced forms of interoperability because all these chainlets share the same validator set. And you can enforce relaying on a network level. You can either do social consensus or actual penalties for not relaying. So you can have really smooth connections between these chainlets. And I think it's going to lead to an advanced IBC and just user experience in general. IBC is key. And yeah,
fantastic.
I guess.
When you have these different chainlets, how do we have to imagine how they communicate with blockchains outside of Saga in the Cosmos ecosystem? So will Saga kind of be the hub in the middle that all the chainlets route through if they go to the other blockchains outside of the Saga ecosystem itself? And how will you capture the value from all those transfers between the chainlets?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's something we still have to work out. It's kind of this trade-off between optimization of having very clear pathways to go into the wider Cosmos versus having a single choke point and point of failure. So we want to ideally have some combination of both, where we have a preferred pathway, maybe a tight integration with Axelar. So Axelar's bridging system is very smooth. It's very convenient. A lot of top chains, Juno, Osmosis, are setting that as a standard. So we could have a Axelar pathway that is the preferred IBC way out and in, as an example. But you also want to be able to have the ability to have a direct connection between chains. It's just the Cosmos vision and just kind of network topology in general leads to somewhat of a hub and spoke architecture. Even when it's not enforced, if you think of airport systems, there's going to be hubs and spokes that just emerge naturally as a place where a lot of planes can congregate and have it as a checkpoint between networks. It doesn't make sense to have every city connected to every city, because that'd be a quadrillion plane routes. So I think of the same thing with networks.
Got it. One thing that really impressed me when I read the light paper was the front end and the back end model for the interface between developers, users, and I guess ultimately Saga mainnet. It basically talks about how users do not have to hold necessarily the Saga token, right, to utilize, let's say, a chainlet. That gets worked out on the back end between the developer and the Saga mainnet, right? And this is maybe not a question, more of a comment that maybe you can add to. It just makes sense to me logically that the users coming into crypto, they're not obviously used to Web3, right? And I think what Saga's trying to do is making the user experience similar to Web2. And so that should be a huge advantage from a UX standpoint.
Yeah, 100%. We believe that if we're going to compete with Web2, you have to compete with them on a user experience level. Because if you're not hitting that level of user experience, then I mean it's a non-starter. in my opinion. And that's why we're seeing these Web3 games aren't really catching on that much. There was like Axie Infinity and stuff, but it was just like a shitty game that just happened to like take off and have like good Ponzi-nomics or whatever. So yeah, we believe that you need to match the usability, and we think a part of that is the traditional blockchain interactions where you whip out your ledger and you have your MetaMask, and every time you do an interact, you have to. We think that's probably not the future. So we're trying to think of how can you have different models where maybe someone buys a subscription with a credit card, and on the back end, it's just like a cloud, just like an Amazon AWS or a cloud service bill for this application. And they just look at it as, hey, we're just buying block space on a decentralized ledger. And then from the user's point of view, they could just have a subscription, and their phone can have like some sort of like cryptographic entrance so they can get in and like just so they're one-to-one subscription. They can't just send it out everywhere. So that we just think there's a lot of different ways that you can interact with blockchains that will improve the experience. So I should probably dive into how the front end back end model works.
Yeah,
so
that'd be great.
Definitely.
Yeah, so the back end, you can think of it like you're interacting with the Saga blockchain and you're buying block space, and it's like a gauge that you fill up, and the more block space that you're demanding, the faster the gauge is going to drain. So you can say like, I feel like that's pretty straightforward. So if you're like a small project and you don't need very much block space, then you can just fill up a little bit and have it just slowly drain out. You're just slowly buying block space. And then, so that's all through Saga Coin. That's all Saga operated. The validators are paid in Saga for providing the block space. And then on the front end, the developer can choose whatever they want as their monetization method, or how a user can gain access to the block space that they've reserved or purchased. So that could be through a subscription. It could be through a typical blockchain interface where you pay in Ethereum, or let's say Uniswap wants to make what I call as an economic shard of themselves. They could run it on Saga, powered by Uniswap or ETH, and then have those funds flow to the UniDAO or the Uniswap holders, or whatever method they want to have any economic surplus flow to whatever source they'd like for funding or revenue, whatever. So yeah, we think that's really disruptive, and especially for gaming and entertainment, which is what we're aiming for. We think if gaming is really going to take off, it's not going to be you're fucking around with your MetaMask every time you want to do shit. Like, sorry for my language, but
yeah. So in that Uniswap example, so let's say the user, they can maybe use the Uni token for gas, or ETH, for example, right? Do they have to, as the user experience, do they have to like bridge over, maybe using XLR or something, and then they can interact with that chainlet, and then maybe once they're done, they can bridge back if they want to like swap with other pools. For example, if Uniswap just opened up a chainlet for one specific pool, right? Is bridging still part of the user experience for now?
Yeah, I'd say for the crypto OGs, it will be. I mean, we're definitely having a focus on gaming and entertainment, and I feel like that's going to lend more towards a user like putting in their credit card or something, and getting in access to this game, or getting access to block space. So I'm hoping that, I mean, because that's a huge barrier to entry, like knowing how to use bridging systems, Uniswap, deep. Like, I would like, ideally, our system is going to like avoid that kind of stuff and only leave that for like the true OGs that like really get into this game, and they have a bunch of Atom, and they're like, yo, I want to buy this sick sword. Let me do some cross-chain bridging to get in, like
Right.
That's what I'm hoping that we get moved towards. But I'm still envisioning a world where if we get a World of Warcraft level game that is crushing it on Saga, there's going to be people that are doing like DeFi arbitrage for like swords and armor. Like, I think it's going to get weird at some point. And there will be people like getting sandwich attacked for swords and stuff. So I'm kind of looking forward to the world where like DeFi and GameFi just kind of like fuse into this weird.
Yeah, well, with the news of DYDX coming to Cosmos, I think you'll see a lot of sort of DeFi activity in the future in Cosmos, which that value should flow over to other ecosystems like Saga, for example.
Yeah, this seems like a watershed moment maybe for Cosmos. Like it feels like it caused some earthquakes within like Twitter world where like ETH people got all pissed off and Cosmos people are like, yeah, we told you so. Like it's very interesting to watch it all play out. Um,
For
but
sure.
yeah, I didn't realize how big they were until yesterday. I started hearing that they have as much trading volume as like Coinbase or something.
Yeah, they're the biggest perp dex that's decentralized, and they were building on supposedly the most favorable layer 2 solution, which is Darknet. So that's saying a lot. I think someone put out a thread, making that point where if your top sort of DeFi app that's building on supposedly the most bullish layer 2 solution is moving over to Cosmos, that's sort of like a leading indicator that there's going to be like a great migration, and people will eventually discover Cosmos SDK as the superior solution and like the thesis of app chains. So I think we're just getting started, and it's great for Cosmos.
Yeah. I heard something around them having a like a software contract or like licensing agreement kind of thing. And
Yep.
that is like such a Web 2 business model. Like that's not going to work here. I don't like that's not going to fly, I don't think. So yeah, it's just interesting to see it play out. It's definitely a big win for Cosmos. I hope they crush it, and I expect they will. But
Yeah,
I think they found the right tech, as we all agree on, and think it's a game changer.
definitely.
What I wanted to ask, when you talked before about paying the block space on Saga, so how do you have to imagine that with the chainlets? Aren't the chainlets sovereign blockchains themselves, where you would buy the block space on that specific app chain, or how does that work?
The developers for that app chain would buy as much block space as they think they need. So as their application grows, then they can grow the amount of block space reserved. It's gonna grow the cost of Saga, and the total cost that you have to keep refilling the gauge. But yeah, that'll be on a developer point of view. Like that's about that whole like breaking apart the front end and the back end. You can see the back end is just something that developers work on. Almost like when you call an Uber, you don't see Amazon AWS as part of the bill, but that
Okay.
it is part of the bill. It's just worked in on the back end with the developer side. So that
Okay.
you can envision like that same kind of concept where we're trying to push it forward, where you can do something like an Uber, where you can have a blockchain integrated with your application, but the user has no idea. Like that's kind of what we're aiming for.
Yeah,
But that would then mean you have a lot less authority and customization over your chainlet than you would have if you have just literally your own IBC enabled blockchain in the Cosmos Hub, right?
Agreed. Yeah, it's like a spectrum of sovereignty, and I think we're definitely on the less sovereign side. Like we're even trying to minimize governance because we think like we see the pros to governance, but we also see the cons to governance. And this has been shown with, I'm a big Juno fan, I'm a Juno bull, but like this Juno whale thing was a total shit show. And then there was like the Solana land thing recently. Like there's just a point where I don't think everyone needs governance. And the governance they do have, we want it to be more of like a developer controlled thing. And Saga is more permissionless and like we don't give a shit. Like fill up the gauge, pay for the block space, we'll give you clean blocks. Or secure decentralized block space. Yeah, so there will be some form of governance, but I think it won't be as sovereign and all inclusive as like a straight up SDK chain. Like that's hard to compete with sovereignty. It's just so far on that spectrum. You can do whatever you want.
the advantage I see is, and this is kind of pointed out in the light paper, there's less room for dead weight. So the chainlets that are live and active, you know that, okay, the developers are serious about sort of like continuing their development, right, for that product because of the subscription model. Kind of like Polkadot, but yeah, what's your opinion on that? You think there's that decreases the chances of like rug pulls, right? That's so common on Ethereum or BSC rather.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you'll be able to tell what ones are real and what ones are not based upon the block consumption, like you said. Like if it's consuming enough block space, you know that like this is a large economic engine, and like the chance of it being a straight up rug pull are way lower. Whereas like the low effort smart contract launch a chain, you don't know how much block space, you don't know how big the community is. They can masquerade all that stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'd say in general, the top level chainlets that have a huge amount of traction consuming a bunch of block space, you can be pretty sure those aren't going to be rug pulls. I mean, it's hard to say really in crypto. Like some people can say Terra was a rug pull, you know,
Right.
like it's
Um,
very, it's like the line between like innovation and like scammery is like, I don't know.
yeah.
It's hard to say because the Terra, I thought was like a really sweet experiment, but now in hindsight, it's a total Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. Yeah. Some models work during the bull market and when the bear comes around.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, could you give us a breakdown of like Saga Tokenomics? I know we mentioned that, okay, it's utilized on behalf of developers to pay for block space, which is a huge use case already, right? But is the supply capped at all? Is it inflationary, deflationary? Are there other uses to it? Obviously maybe there's like staking involved for network security.
Yeah, exactly. I think the final like number of tokens, etc., is not decided, but we have a clear focus on we're trying to commoditize block space. We're selling block space as cheap as possible. We believe that sorry, give me a second. We believe that the inflation is not the way to pay these guys. They need to get paid for their block space. So their main income needs to be from selling block space, not inflation. So we want the inflation to trend towards zero over time, but there's a reason to believe that you don't want actual zero inflation. Like it sounds really good, like it's just kind of like a risk factor, or it means that in the future you're probably going to have to adjust that if you, maybe, you know. And
Right.
that just opens a can of worms. So we're trying to find that balance of having most of the income come from selling block space, but keeping the network secure at all times, even if the economic activity drops lower, is kind of what we're aiming for.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because like I love the meme of there's this many tokens, like the Bitcoin meme, like there's 21 million. It's so simple. But it sounds simple, but like in 2100, when there's zero block rewards, is it simple? Or is there going to be a chain fork and there's going to be two sides of the community, and it's inevitable in my mind. So I think something similar could happen in like Juno or Osmosis. If the security gets too low, they may have to like insert a little bit of perpetual inflation, and the shit show that's going to cause is crazy. So I think it's about finding a balance. I don't really know the right answer.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. Because I don't think every sort of token is meant to be a hard asset, right? Like Bitcoin. So
Yeah, I think there's some place where you can do a trade-off for like long-term security for like less monetary properties and more of just this is a security token. And so I see that's more of like Adam's tokenomics as of right now, is like this thing was built to just be a security token, and then later if we can get more revenues from shared security and stuff, then you can start being a little more aggressive on its monetary properties.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, a lot of those projects, I also feel they just put arbitrary number in as a marketing gag, because especially Juno, for example, it's taking like 11.5 more years until they actually reach the max supply. So, I mean, who knows what's happening in 12 years and if the
Exactly.
blockchains that we know today are still around. So I feel like that max supply there is, and in many other projects as well. It's just a little bit arbitrary because it reads nice in a white paper. If you can.
Yeah, it's a great meme. I love the meme. You just have to admit that it's a meme and then just go on from there. Because the fact that Juno has a max supply, like I think it's kind of cool. Like it's a dip. Them and Osmosis, and I guess Akash kind of did as well. We're kind of the first ones to try it out, and I think it's a fun experiment. But to just say like conclusively like this is the max number that will ever exist beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's like you're high. Like You just like jack the whale's funds. Like, let's get real. Like, this is proof of stake. We can do as a community what we want to do. The end of story.
Yeah. And when we were talking about interchain security before, I mean, that's quite similar to what you're doing, right? And on Atom, once it's live, the Atom stakers will earn the tokens of the customer chains. Will that be the same if I'm staking the Saga token? Will I earn the Chainlet coins, or will I just all the revenues come from the Saga coin itself?
Yeah, as of now, it would be all from the Saga token. I think there's room for a little bit of adjustments to that, like a certain like protocol, like a top level chainlet could run its own validator and give airdrops of its coin to the delegators and have additional income. Like that's a possible scenario. But in general, you'll just be making Saga coin. And in a world where like Cosmos Hub, it makes sense because I don't think there's going to be like an absolute shit ton of chains under it, like maybe 5 to 10. So if you're getting revenue in 5 to 10 underlying tokens, like that's manageable. That's manageable. But I mean, your accounting department's going to hate you, but it's manageable. If you're getting it in like 100 to 1,000 tokens, maybe 5,000, like that is an accounting nightmare. It's creating like an automatic market sell on all these coins, just due to the fact that you can't stomach volatility, because what if some coin like shoots up and you get a bunch of income in it and then it shoots down the next day and you cannot reclaim that income? Now you have this huge tax liability. Like people that run big operations need to think about all this stuff. So the fact that on the back end, it's all the revenue will be coming in the Saga coin, and the Saga coin will hopefully be relatively stable compared to like 1,000 chainlets. Like there's going to be huge volatility in there. We think it's just a little bit smoother of a model, and it allows the clean breakout of the front and the back end, which we think will drive a lot of usability improvements.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, especially the thing with the taxes.
Nightmare. It's
something
hard enough as it is.
about.
Not a lot of people think about it, but hey, we still live in a fiat world, man. Like we all still need to like get groceries and have bank accounts and stuff. As much as I would love the Bitcoin anarchist world, we're a long ways away.
Yeah, because it's kind of funny, like especially with interchain security, I've never been even thinking about that. I was just like, yeah, actually, now that you're saying it, and we're getting some customer chain tokens, and we get a couple tokens each day, and for like 10 different tokens or 5, whatever it's going to be, and you have to like declare all that. Yeah, it's going to be a mess. And I assume the revenues are not going to be that high for each single token, and because otherwise the Atom staking rewards would just be through the roof if you get like a high APR on 5 different tokens, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think for the like average Joe and Jane, I think they're fine. They don't have to claim all that. It's just like the big guys like Figment and Chorus One, Stakefish, like they're gonna, if they were getting in Saga's example, like 5,000 coins, like holy shite, that's a nightmare. But I think it's just a little like I try to definitely frame it, and I do believe that we're not exactly competitive with Cosmos Hub. Like I think we're giving a very different value prop. We're like the permissionless purchasing of commodity priced block space, where Cosmos Hub is like you have to do a governance proposal and it like locks you in long term, and until a governance proposal turns this chain off, it just runs. You don't have to continually fill up like a gauge and pay for block space. You're just like in the club kind of. And I think that in the club is going to be reserved for top level projects, mostly with DeFi or just high security needs, where if you're like playing a game or sending silly monkey pictures, I think your security needs can probably take a step back for affordable block space or permissionless block space.
I wanted to ask about development funding. So I know like you guys are focusing on the EVM module first, and maybe like you mentioned Cosmosm next. But as a developer, I guess, do you have like a set sort of like community pool or some sort of resource to help with funding? I don't know if you've like done or plan on doing an ecosystem fund in the future to help with that.
Yeah, I think part of our tokenomics will be like a protocol owned treasury that will, I mean, all this stuff is yet to be finalized on percentages and details and stuff, but there will be some form of protocol owned treasury that can be used to, like the main initial purposes are subsidizing like initial block space for people. So like if you submit a proposal, you are legit, we'll give you like some percentage or maybe like up to some limit of free block space that you can consume, and then above that you have to start paying for it, like as an example. Or actual grants to projects like that. That is not like official on our like agenda right now, but it'll be part of like the protocol's ability to give grants to chainlets that put up a good case and say, hey, we want the funds to build on you, and here's why, and here's how many users we're bringing, kind of thing.
Got it. And in terms of the community, like what is the next milestone that they can sort of look forward to for Saga? And I guess this might be going into the roadmap a little.
Yeah, I'd say the next big event is going to be our AlphaNet in the next probably 1 to 3 months, depending on how difficult some of our hurdles left are. We're hiring a bunch of really top level engineers right now. As you can probably guess, the pipeline has increased with all the havoc in crypto. There's a lot of people that are out of jobs, looking for jobs, whatever. And we recently did like a really great funding round and got a good USDC treasury. So we're in a great place to start picking up some top level engineers. So yeah, AlphaNet's probably the next big thing. We're planning on having just doing a bunch more podcasts like this, CryptoCito, etc. Just trying to get our name out there and let more people know what we're doing. I think having like a Discord community call next week, and hoping to have like regular like Twitter Spaces, Discord stuff, just for people that want to stay updated and get filled in on Saga. Yeah, I'd say those are probably the next big things.
Excellent. Yeah.
One thing, when you're starting to launch, how complicated will it be to launch one's chainlet? So will it basically be a portal and you kind of click yourself through it, and it's enough to just know how to write smart contracts on an EVM machine? Or is actual blockchain infrastructure needed to develop your own chainlet?
Yeah, it's a good question. We're trying to lower the barrier entry as much as possible. So our kind of tagline is we want launching a chain to feel like as easy as launching a smart contract. So we want a very similar interface, because as of now, launching a Cosmos blockchain, there's so much that goes into it. Like you have to get all the validators together, get them incentivized, and get the right stakeholders with enough coins to launch the network. Like there's a bunch to it. So yeah, we're definitely going for more of the GUI user interface, like press a couple buttons, launch a chainlet kind of thing, launch your EVM code on it. Like that's definitely the direction we're heading to. Much more that than actual blockchain infrastructure needed. That's all. Hopefully that'll all be on the back end. Well, it will all be on the back end.
Awesome. And then I have one thing I would really love to know, and maybe you can just articulate it a little bit. What is the big overarching goal of Saga, and how will it benefit the entire Cosmos ecosystem?
Yeah, I feel like I heard this a while ago and I started saying it. I think my team kind of agreed or started catching on to the idea that so up to the year 2000, oil was the most scarce and desirable commodity. And then 2000 to 2020, it was data that was the most scarce and desirable commodity. And we think 2020 to 2050, it's going to be secure, decentralized block space is going to be the most scarce and desirable commodity. So that'll be just a form of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cosmos. All these will just be the most desirable resource. I mean, there's only like 1 megabyte of Bitcoin block space per every 10 minutes. Like there's nothing. So that's part of our vision, is that we think block space is going to be an extremely desirable commodity. And our goal is to commoditize block space. We want to drive that cost as low as possible So these validators are just providing a fair price and just actually just paying, and I mean, users and developers are just paying the commodity level price for secure decentralized block space. Will it be as secure and decentralized as Ethereum and Bitcoin? I mean, no, that's crazy. But it's just finding the right price point for the use cases that we're looking for, and that is like gaming and entertainment. And we think GameFi, this is a huge market that has massive potential, and gamers want to own their assets. Like, I would love to own my like dope Elden Ring gear that I worked so hard for and be able to sell it or buy it, like that's just natural part of the game. So yeah, that's kind of our goal. That's our vision.
Awesome. And then just before we wrap it up, the one question that probably every cosmonaut is waiting for, and that's Wen Airdrop. Can you give us some alphas here?
Yes, I'd love to give you some alphas. So I mean, I'll give you as much as I can. I think everyone's heard this, but I'll just say it again. Projects that are launching they shouldn't be talking about details around airdrops. There's just legal issues, regulatory issues, like accountability issues, all this stuff. All I can say is that the Saga will be using technology that we inherited from and was born in other parts of the Cosmos and other top Cosmos projects, and those stakers should probably be compensated for that and help bring in some of the community. So that hopefully there will be something, but I don't know.
Awesome.
That's about as much as I can do.
I think that's already quite conclusive. If someone's active in the Cosmos ecosystem, he will understand what you share with us here. So if people want to reach out to you, to Saga, have some questions maybe, or just want to connect with you, where's the best place? Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can see me I'm lurking on Telegram in the Cosmos price speculation chat under Joe Dirte. My Twitter handle is @BTC Joe Dirte. And then yeah, you can find Saga you can go to saga.xyz. That's our website. If you're a developer, you can sign up to the Innovators program. And you can see Saga's Twitter is, I think, @SagaXYZ__. So those are all the places you can find me in Saga.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for the podcast. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for being on. It was really insightful and really enjoyed that one. So thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Very cool. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to smash up that like button, subscribe to us on YouTube, on Spotify, wherever you're listening or watching this. Thank you so much. That really helps us a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you have a great day and talk to you soon again. Peace out.